On this day, in 1933, well-known motorist Tom Patterson had a plan to get his name in the record books. He intended to challenge Norman Wizard Smith's Brisbane to Sydney racing record of 14 hours 21 minutes set a month earlier in February. Norman Wizard Smith, a giant in Australian and New Zealand motorsport through the 1920s and 30s, was absolutely fixated with automotive feats involving speed and securing as many land speed and distance records as he could muster. Ofttimes building his own speed machines from a combination of automotive bodies and aviation engines to undertake his challenges, the Wizard was also well known for decking himself out in a business suit and Homburg hat whilst performing his feats of daring do. Securing a number of speed and distance records through the 1920s, Wizard Smith's reputation took somewhat of a blow in 1932 as a result of a failed attempt at bettering Sir Malcolm Campbell's 1 mile and 5 mile records in New Zealand. Never one to quit, the Wizard returned to Australia and was soon back behind the wheel, once again securing his name against the fastest run from Brisbane to Sydney in February. Tom Patterson, also a very well-known race driver, wasn't going to stand idle whilst records fell around him beyond the bounds of the racetrack. Carefully selecting a single-seater vehicle for his challenge of the Wizard's recent southbound run, Patterson miraculously managed to squeeze in his trusty mechanic for the trip, just in case. Where the mechanic squeezed in, given the single-seated nature of the vehicle, is completely uncertain. The pair set off from Brisbane at 5:30 a.m. in the morning on the 22nd of March, heading south through the Queensland countryside via Beaudesert and Rathdowney on their way towards the New South Wales border. By midday, the vehicle was spotted passing through the small regional town of Uralla, just south of Armidale, with their record attempt making excellent time. As they traversed the Moonbi Ranges on the approach to Tamworth, Patterson sped around a bend at 60 miles per hour, or 100 kilometres, to find the road blocked by large piles of gravel. The local council were undertaking road repairs. With nowhere left to go, lest the car mount the piles and become airborne, Patterson slammed on the brakes and swerved violently, hoping for the best. Lurching sideways, the car slammed through a fence alongside the road and careered down a 20-foot high or 7-metre embankment. Amazingly, as the car finally came to rest, both Patterson and the cramped mechanic discovered neither had been injured in the crash. They were able to exit the vehicle without virtually so much as a scratch. Their record-challenging automobile, however, was not quite as lucky. Despite the car having suffered heavy damage, Patterson was not going to give up his record attempt without a fight. Seeking aid from the nearby town of Bendemeer, the vehicle was finally dragged back up the incline and onto the road, where Patterson and his mechanic were able to effect some very rough repairs. Needless to say, however, despite their best efforts at pointing the car back in the direction of Sydney, Patterson's attempt at the record sadly ended in the foothills of Tamworth. Ironically, at the time of the crash, Patterson was actually 55 minutes ahead of Norman Wizard Smith's earlier Brisbane to Sydney record, and may very well have beaten it had it not been for his unfortunate accident. Most ironically, however, convinced his own February record could be bettered, Norman Wizard Smith left Brisbane the very next day on the 23rd of March in a Ford V8 Roadster, and successfully managed to reduce his prior Brisbane to Sydney record to 13 hours and 38 minutes.